I am here with John Clidy, who has a couple different titles. I'm learning that there's more and more that's being added to the list. So you're Keller Williams International Divisional Leader. You're also the Regional Director of the Greater PA region of Keller Williams, an OP of Washington Township, and you're also a best-selling author from your book, Leaving Six Figures.
Yeah, you got it. I got too many roles. I still have a mega agent team and I own some other market centers, but yeah, I think there's enough, too many roles.
Too many roles. So I also know that early on you were a police officer.
Yeah, state trooper for 17 years.
So tell me, what made you make that transition from being a first responder into the real estate world?
I think it happened by accident, I guess you would say, because I don't think I ever thought I would be this real estate, whatever you want to call me. I kind of got my license for informational purposes. So I was really gung-ho state trooper, the uniform, the hat, ready to rock and roll. I loved what I was doing and I enjoyed it. I was so proud to be a state trooper. And I think as time went on, I kind of learned that even though it's a prestigious position, I guess, being a state trooper and a lot of responsibilities, I learned in time it was a job. I've seen people come and go because of, lawsuits or things went wrong or whatever happens. And I just seen a sense that as much as I was badge number, whatever, it still was a job and we had something to do. And I knew how much I would make, right? For the most part, I knew how much my pension would be when I left. And as I started, I guess I was more educated as time went on and I started to learn business and wow, you can make as much as you want and it can be flexible. I don't have to work Thanksgiving and Christmas and holidays. And, I don't have to go, listen, I'll never regret the time that I spent with state police, but, I usually go in the direction where people are leaving. At 9/11, I'm going to it where people are leaving, or Hurricane Sandy, I'm going, my wife's like, why are you going? I'm like, honey, I have to go. I have no choice. I have to go. It's not like I could say I'm calling out of work today. No, it doesn't work that way for the most part when you're a state trooper. So I think it just got to a point where when it was just about the right job, I started to see me transitioning out of that mindset into a business mindset, and they were misaligned. And eventually that misalignment happened. It just happened really close to retirement.
Nice. Yeah. So obviously when you're a police officer, there's some psychology behind your role and getting to know people and, know how people operate. Do you ever find your experience from being a state trooper kind of seep into your roles that you're in now? Do you ever pull any of that kind of experience or your knowledge of knowing people and that, kind of fight or flight mentality that sometimes first responders might have? Do you ever find that kind of seeping into your now leadership journey?
That's a good question. Yes, I do see my discipline show. I do think you have to be extremely disciplined as a state trooper. And I'm a pretty disciplined human being. I also leadership, obviously the responsibilities that we have as a state trooper is immense, where, you can make a mistake, someone can die, or you could die, right? For the most part in business, your profits can die. You really can't die. You could, but it's unlikely. So, and then I think the best thing I could say I've gotten, at the end of the day, it really gave me perspective that the worst day on the state police job trumps my worst days here by far, because usually those days are not good days. Someone passed away. I remember one of my supervisors passed away in a car accident, and things like that, or just, 9/11. I mean, those days, where we have to go there uncertain and working, in the, ground zero and being in that environment. When you think about it, it puts everything in perspective. So when I have a challenge here, it really gets me like, yeah, this ain't nothing, like, come on, so I think it does arm you with kind of like, hey, like, chill, dude, like you're going to be okay. And in this very sensitive, different environment, it gives you perspective when not everybody has it. So I would say those are the things that really allow me to take those pieces back into my daily business life now.
Yeah, it's interesting. My OP, Matt, was also a first responder, and he always says there's no such thing as a real estate emergency. I know what a real emergency looks like, and this ain't it. Like, this is not a fire. This is fine. We can figure it out. So it's interesting that you also share the same thing. It definitely puts things in perspective for you and for him. And obviously it's easier said than done for us because we think everything is an emergency, as real estate agents, everything's got to be resolved now.
Well, you would, the funny thing is my wife says, how unempathetic I am. And I say to her, yes, I've gotten better, but I think that's also the quality that I'm sure Matt would resonate with, is because of what we've seen. Sometimes I'm not as, empathetic to things because I'm like, come on, that's really not a big deal. When to them it is, but for me, it's like, no, you're good. Like, calm down, and even my wife says it, like the kid's arms falling off. I'm like, yeah, they'll be fine. But that's the thing. I think that, being in a business environment, I think empathy is important. So I've learned to also take some of the things that are not as good in this world, and just know that I need to be better so I can, be successful and thrive in this world.
Yes. Yeah. So while everyone's leadership journey is unique, the reasons for their success are also equally unique. It's always very interesting to have conversations like this to learn just how other leaders got to where they are now. What would you say is your main motivation for your leadership?
That's another good question. Look at you.
I came prepared.
You are so prepared.
Yes.
If you come to my office, I have life story and motivation all plastered like they're wallpaper all around. I mean, it's all over. This is my home office, but in my office at Washington Township, they're all over. And I can tell you that I've gotten obsessed about people's journey, meaning that, like, number one, I love hiring people, talented people. Let me just paraphrase that and put some quotes on it. But talking to people and hearing their journey, and I love the big ones. Like I've interviewed pretty much most OPs in this region. I've interviewed some of the regional directors in this country now. Like, I've done some really high level meet. I've done it with billionaires. I've done it with admins, you name it. And I've been very enamored by what they tell me, and I've been inquisitive to listen and hear what they say in their journeys. And I think it feeds me to be better, because I hear some of those challenges, and some of mine are not so, like even my book, Leaving Six Figures, in my world, it's unheard of, right? Someone left 3 years shy of a pension, and why would you do it and all that? And then I hear stories from other people. I'm like, oh my God, like my story sucks, like, so it does humble you. Leadership humbles you. And I listened to one of my mentors. He doesn't know it, but he is John Maxwell, all the time about leadership. And it just, to me, I've just become a servant leader. And if I pour enough into my people, I get everything that I want, and they get what they want, and it's a win-win. But when I think about myself, then I might not get everything I want, and they definitely don't get what they want. So I've learned to really believe in my heart and my soul that if I pour into enough people, their successes will be my successes, and I'll have a massive life. And that's kind of, I think that's happened. And I know it's cliche with Keller Williams, but it really has happened under me being in Keller Williams. And I would say not right away. I would say 3 years in, I got like this epiphany. Like, I'm like, okay, I see it now. Like, I need to get better as a leader. I need to pour into people, because before I was just entrepreneur, right? I just keep going. I'm going.
Hustle,
But
yeah.
as I slowed down, right, I've gotten purposeful and I've gotten meaningful around helping people thrive. And I'm like, wow, my world's getting bigger. I'm looking around, I'm like, wow, this is my life's getting bigger too. Like, this is cool. And they're succeeding. And I'm like, wow. And the more I pour into them, the more they succeed. It gets contagious. And that's has been my driver lately, is watching other people that have been in my organization or still in thrive. I think that's been the thing that, and really my passion has been seeing them thrive lately.
Yeah, that's definitely a great quality as a good leader today. Speaking of, what do you think makes a successful leader?
I think discipline. I think what's the old saying? People don't care about what you know until they know that you care. So I think you got to be empathetic, which I've told you I have to work on. But I have been really good over the last 5 or 6 years of being empathetic. I think listening skills. What's John Maxwell book? Good leaders ask great questions. I think I've learned to listen and ask really, really good questions. And the one thing that I'm known for now in Keller Williams, Mark King's kind of making me this guy, but it is important to me, is accountability. I really strongly believe that's what's lacking in a lot of people's lives, is accountability. Clear expectations, yes, right? You got to be clear on what you want and what your vision is. But that accountability thing, we tend to let people off the hook too much. They told you their goals, and every week they're not hitting them, and every month they're not hitting them, and every year they're not hitting them, and we continue to let them do it as their leader. And that's the thing I got to get better, because I haven't, because I have all those jobs, I do have a lot of people in my world, and not everybody's hitting their goals. I mean, listen, the region has 11,000 people. All the regions I lead, probably has 30,000, folks. So, there's a lot of people that I'm leading someone in that world, right? And they're not hitting their goals. The top line leaders, I'm sure not all the bottom line leaders are. So, my job's not done until like everyone's hitting their goals, at least that are my leadership, right? And because the fact that I have, beautiful house and have everything I want, and people in my organization do not, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great. So, I would say accountability has been, I guess, if I had to circle a word for me and for the leadership style, that I think the leadership that's needed is accountability.
Okay, so you may have just answered my next question. So given your role and what you do day to day, you're working with a lot of leaders in our industry from different regions and having a lot of conversations, some that might be great, some that might be a little uncomfortable. What do you think is missing today with successful leaders? What attribute, what maybe core value do you think is missing in leaders today?
Well, I gave you a good one, but I'll give you another one. First off, there's a book from Patrick Lencioni called The Ideal Team Player. And there's 3 things, right? Humble, hungry, smart. And when I say smart, I don't mean that you can, you got 1,500 on your SATs. Yeah. I mean, you're aware, right? And when I say humble, meaning that, yeah, listen, I have titles that make me influential, but it doesn't really mean that I'm influential, right? Meaning that, are the results there? Are people getting better inside my world? And in hungry, sometimes you get to a point, right, where you have everything you want, or I guess the material things you want, right? House, car, picket fence, whatever you want to call it. But I guess the question is, are you still hungry for success? Are you hungry to lead people? Are you hungry to recruit people? Are you hungry to coach and consult people? And that's what I think every leader has to ask, because there's some leaders that, they've nailed it for 20 years, but not so much for the last 5, right? And I know it because that's my job, right? As a regional leader, like I'm leading leaders, and as a divisional leader, I'm leading regional leaders, which is the top of the tree. And at the end of the day, if we're not developing leaders, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
So I would say accountability was the first part. To this one, I would say you have to be developing leaders. That means that if it's time for me to check out because I've had too many years of not hitting, the trajectory doing that I feel that I need to do, I have somebody ready to rock and roll to replace me, and that's the thing that we all should have. We should always be thinking with the end in mind. Gary teaches us that. And I think if we're developing leaders, you're always going to be growing. And if you get stagnant as a leader, you can tap out and then the next one's in and you still win because they're inside your organization. How cool is that?
Yeah. Do you think that being a successful leader requires you to be more book smart or more street smart?
Well, I'm definitely not book smart if you see my grades. So I think I am street smart, and I think I've gotten book smart by reading and being more learning based. I wasn't always like that. I could honestly say that I did not become learning based until I was at Keller Williams. I mean, and I've only, I'll be 51 in a couple of weeks. So I came to Keller Williams in 2011. So 10 years of my life, I've been extremely learning based. Before that, I read what I had to read, and I, mostly sports related stuff, magazines and books on like coaches and stuff. And now I read enough or so much that, I get bored with business books and then I go to sports books, and I get bored with sports books and then I go to like maybe a motivational book that has nothing to do with business, or maybe it's not motivation. Maybe it's a health book about like my eating habits, or, maybe it's something about me being a better parent or something like that. So, and then I'm definitely a podcast holic. Every time I'm in the gym, I'm trying to find something new, and people that know me that are in my world, I'm texting, when I like it, they know it. In the morning, I'm texting like 30 people, like, John Maxwell or Ed Millett or Gary Keller or some podcast that hit me, and I'm hoping it hits them too.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely agree. I was never into reading growing up in school. Like it was just not really, I mean, I read because I had to, right? Because I had to pass. And I think stepping into Keller Williams, right? There are so many resources and so many books that are just really powerful. And, I discovered John Maxwell by being here, right? I may have knew the name, but I really didn't know like who he was and what his mission was. And I know that in some calls in the past, we had talked about John Maxwell. And, we're all always passing around books, whether it's real estate related or leadership or just personal growth or wealth. And it's nice because as an adult, you can pick and choose what you want to read, right? Nobody's forcing you to do it. You read whatever you feel aligns with where you are in that moment in your life. And I think you just pretty much nailed you hit the nail on the head on that one. So there is no leader in the world that has a path that has been quiet and with no pitfalls, right? And knowing the obstacles that others have encountered in their journey can be helpful, right? When understanding the thought process and preparing yourself for the difficulties you are bound to face in your career. What is the hardest decision you have ever had to make in your career?
That's a good one. I guess really leaving the state police. I mean, I had a car, right? I had with gas, we could fill up the gas tank whenever at any state pump. I had insurance. I had health, the best health benefits that mankind can buy. I made 6 figures, right? Every year I made close to 120,000 a year. I had a get out of jail free card, not saying, sometimes you can get in some of the lines, and, not that I was a speeder, but, if you got pulled over, you kind of have, all that stuff. So, giving that up wasn't easy. And, I put my life on the line, for 17 years. And I went through 6 months of the academy where I lived there, and I gave everything I got to it, and I had friendships and relationships. And I know it sounds really weird, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to retire with my class. And I know that's weird. Like, it wasn't about the money anymore. It wasn't about anything. I was just like, I worked so hard. I want to finish what I started. But so that conflict really led me to leave, but it was hard to leave. And I told someone, I did a similar podcast, and someone asked me, like, similar question, but I remember my last day, and I'm thinking, like, all this is going to happen. Like, they're going to come out and shake my hand, the colonel, and, hey man, thanks, you got shot at and all this, and thanks for all your help. And it was really the opposite. Like, no one said nothing. I handed my stuff in, I handed my gun in. No one was around. I mean, it was like a barren town. No one even knew I was done. I mean, really, there was nothing. Like, it was like a retired guy taking my stuff in the logistics unit, and I handed my gun in, and it was sad, and I felt sorry for myself for one day. And I don't think I asked myself, did I do the right thing? I just felt sorry for myself, because I was like, damn, like, all I just went through, and I just resigned, 3 years shy of a pension for life. And then the next day, I started with the Greater PA region, May 1st, 2014, or no, well, I think I had like 2 weeks before I started, but my last official day was May 1st, 2014. And my first day in the Greater PA region was May 1st, 2014. And yeah, I think after that day, I didn't feel sorry for myself. I went back to being an agent and an investor and a dad, and started a new journey, and I haven't looked back. But I would say that was hard. That was a hard decision to make.
Did you ever feel like, I can't do this? Or did you ever have that moment of hesitation of retiring, or feeling like, or better yet, starting your new journey, did you ever think this was a huge mistake? Like, I can't do this?
No, I think I was, what's the old saying? I was unconscious incompetence. I didn't know what I didn't know, and it was frustrating. And I know this is a Keller Williams Young Professional Group, so this is a great learning lesson for everybody here. But I remember my first regional event as a leader. And one thing you'll learn about regional events, or even national events, even worse, like, you usually get your agenda the night before. It's not like you're gonna, like, everyone thinks like you're planned out, whatever. Like, you get so busy where it's like, that maybe that morning of, and I was presenting to a group of leaders that I didn't even know, and I'm fresh out of the state police, and it's public speaking, and I'm like sitting up there in front of it was like the worst room ever. It was like this narrow room, and everybody was jammed in there. And like, I'm like right on them, and I'm like, and I'm like scared, unprepared, not comfortable with public speaking. And I'm like, oh my God, can I even do what I'm thinking? Am I going to be this like fraud leader? Like, I can't even speak in public. So that day kind of made me like, damn, like, am I going to be good at this? Like, this leadership thing, like, or should I just be an agent and flip houses? And I went to Toastmasters, practiced there. I ended up going through Keller Williams, train the trainer and train the trainer advance, and doing all that. And fast forward, 9-8 years ago, I mean, I feel really comfortable speaking. I spoke in front of thousands of people. I've been, on stages, mega camp and stuff like that. And I've been prepared. Sometimes I don't even get an agenda, and I'm able to talk about a topic fairly smoothly and feel good about it because I do it so often. So I guess my advice or thought is that, once you get purposeful at something and you really, you want it and you want it enough, you'll get good at it, and you'll let the failures become successes. And like I said, now there's not many times that I go up, even for material that I'm not familiar with, that I'm good enough. I've been doing it enough that I know enough material now where everything kind of falls in line to leadership, some form or fashion to me. So, yeah, but I didn't start off like that. I started off really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But most of us probably, most of us do. Either you grow or you're just not cut out for it. I have had a lot of conversations around my next conversation, and I asked Michelle this question too, and it's definitely something that is trending among the younger generation of leaders. Imposter syndrome. Did you ever face it, early on in your career with Keller Williams? How did you overcome it? Did you realize when it was happening? Michelle had said that she also went through that because, she was definitely growing at a pretty fast rate, it seemed like, and there were often times where she felt inadequate. And she said, always remember that you were in this position, you were given this opportunity because somewhere, someone down the line believed in you, and you have to believe in yourself because somebody else did. So what has your experience been with imposter syndrome?
Yeah, you're nailing it. Yeah, I've been imposter syndrome a couple times. First, financially, because I made a lot of money, but I didn't keep a lot of money. So the first imposter syndrome was, making a lot of money and not understanding finances enough to keep it and invest it. And I learned that before Keller Williams, but I didn't learn it too long before. I was always great at earning, but not as always keeping. So the first thing is people maybe perceive that, maybe you're a millionaire, but at the end of the day, are you keeping $1 million, right? That's the question. So that would be the first part that I've also learned here at Keller Williams. So I know we're giving plugs to this company, and it doesn't really matter. It also matters the circle I surround myself with, right? Keller Williams or not, I surround myself with really good people at Keller Williams, and I'm listening to the right things, and I'm learning about tax laws, and I'm learning about how to protect my family from giving Uncle Sam a couple $300,000-$400,000 in taxes and all that stuff. So that's one. The other thing is probably like Michelle, where I'm learning and developing as I'm going. So I probably started to see. I started off like Michelle's the area director, so I started off the area director, and I was underneath another leader that was, working for Mo Anderson at the time. So he's been around the block and he learned. So I did sit back and watch, and I thought to myself, can I lead like that? Can I teach like that? Can I be like that? Can I be accountable like that? And there was a point where I'm like, I don't know, and then for some reason, I guess something happened where I was like, wow, I think I'm better than I think I am. I'm like, wow, like people are like taking into this, and like they're listening to me, and yeah, they're becoming better, and wow, like then eventually, and I go back to the 5 levels of leadership, John Maxwell, but he talks about the 5 levels are positional, right? Permission, productivity, and then people development. And then the pinnacle is actually developing leaders inside your organization. And when I started to see that I was able to develop people is when I started to say, wow, like I got this now. And that's where I started. My original thing to you was where creating leaders and me pouring into people. Once I start seeing people became successful that started in my organization, and it was my accountability or whatever they tell me, like my accountability and the way I focused on them and poured into them and was hard on them. Some of them probably say, I didn't really like them that much when I worked for them, but they've developed into amazing leaders, and that makes me so proud. So yeah, I mean, but I, like Michelle, I went through that cycle where I was like, oh, I don't think I can do this, and then I was like, then when I seen the results, it's like I took my mom likes the slot machines, and you know, you play the slots, and then you hit the jackpot. You want that jackpot again, right? You know, my mom won't stop going back to the slot machines because she hit. Well, once I hit on one leader that did well, you know, I just want to keep getting more leaders do well in my world. So that's been my thing.
So what is your one piece of advice for somebody that might be facing imposter syndrome right now?
Believe in yourself. I would say, you know, if you're being purposeful and if your intentions are sincere and are true, and you know that there's not an imposter, you know that you're just not that person yet, you're developing into that person, then just keep on that track, right? Keep getting better, keep pouring into people, keep pouring into yourself at the same time. But, you know, if you're not doing them things, then maybe you need to reevaluate. Are you like, you know, for me, right? I was in the state police for probably a few years because I was going to work not wanting to be there anymore and probably not really a state trooper. Really, I was a business guy disguised in a state police uniform. And thank God I was able to get out and not harm and not anyone getting harmed, but I eventually got out and got where I needed to be. So you also have to have mindset, but you also need to make sure you're on the right journey. Are you happy where you are? Is this where you feel good? Because too many people are unhappy. Like my wife sometimes sees me work here and you know, with all these jobs, right? But I like what I do. You know, you know, I pour into high level leaders every single day. I love it. It's what I want to do. Now, when I was a state trooper, as much as some people would love that job, I didn't love it anymore, and I didn't love it. And I didn't like going there. So I think your mindset needs to be always checked, and you need to be doing what you're passionate about doing. Because if not, you could be an imposter.
Yeah, and I think that there should be more conversations around, you know, obviously loving your job is so important, but there is also a group of people that are good at their job, but don't like their job. Right. And that's possible. I think that ultimately, you know, just to talk about myself for a minute,
Please do.
when I was in the assistant team leader position, I, for months, went through that imposter, like, I can't do this. This is way too hard. This is a lot of accountability. There's a lot of expectations I have to meet. And I did it and I ended up getting really good at it. But ultimately, it just wasn't, something was missing for me. It wasn't feeding me like I wanted to. Obviously, I got to have really powerful conversations with some great people in our industry, and I got to help our market center growth and, you know, was able to feed into my own leadership journey. But you know, ultimately there are people that are great at their job, but just don't like it. And I think that that's a really tough conversation to have with yourself, and to know that it is okay. And it is okay to kind of take that leap of faith, which is what you did by leaving, you know, your law enforcement career, 3 years to pension. You know, that's so powerful. And look at you now with all your different titles and your bestseller, you know, leaving 6 figures. I think that it's amazing. And I am really happy that I have the opportunity to learn more about you and have more of this dialogue. So what do you think is the biggest obstacle, challenge facing our industry right now?
Another good question. Well, there's a suppression of commissions, right? So everybody is out for realtor commissions, right? I'm talking everybody, like not just your competitors, but Amazon, everybody, commercial. So knowing that there's suppression of commissions means you got to get really good, right? Like you got to get good at what you do. And I'm a big 6 personal perspective guy. And perspective 1 is self-mastery. So I would say that, you know, you need to master something, you know, and for me, it's been leadership, but for you, it's lead gen or whatever. But in this day and age with suppression of our commission, the good people are going to be busy. The bad people are going to be extinct. And that's reality. And you can go ask, any company that's got boring or didn't pivot and change, or didn't get good at the time they need to get good, right? Being good today, in what Amazon's doing now is great, but 3 years from now, that might be a different, there's a different Amazon model that gets to competitors even faster. I don't know how, but someone will figure it out, right? And same thing with real estate. Everybody's trying to figure out how to disrupt it. No one has figured it out yet, including us. Because they're trying to Amazon real estate, right? They're trying to figure out Uber real estate. And it's not an easy task because human beings are needed, right? People want to, with such a big purchase, they want to feel and see it and all that. But there's going to be someone who's going to figure out how to get the consumer without using the realtor. So you got to be relevant. You got to stay really good at your craft, and you need to be mastery in something. And if you're going to, besides mastering your business skill, I also say you should be really good at finances, and you should wealth build. And I talk about that in my book. You don't need money to wealth build, right? You just need to find a really good property that you can put a portfolio together, and that someone that has money would say, you know what, I would invest 50% or 20, whatever it is, if you can give me that deal that you have. And maybe you leave the address off, but you say, here's the numbers, are you interested? And take advantage of that, because most of us, if this is realtors that in this community, you got the power of, you see the stuff before anybody does. For the most part, you're going to have access to it, and you're an expert, right? Developments, streets, neighborhoods, school systems, and that there's value there. So take advantage of that. And we should always be wealth building, no matter what happens in the future. If you have 10 properties that are, income producing, you're going to be all right, right? And you're going to be able to sell it if you have to, and you're going to be able to make that passive income stream. So yeah, I think with compression of your commissions, you got to get really good, and you better know your numbers, and you better wealth build. Yes,
wealth building. I would love for you to teach a class on wealth building in our market center.
Oh my God, I'm so passionate about that topic. I was talking to one of my team leaders, and he asked me about wealth building. And unfortunately, I didn't even talk about our numbers because I was so happy that he was talking about it. I was like, yes, and let's do it. Well, and here's my contact, and this do, and I was, because especially for the youth, and I love that I see it now. Like even my daughter's 16, and she's like, I want her to have a house like immediately. Like I told her, we're not doing anything big. You're going to get a property early in life, 18. You're going to be signing a document, once she gets her schoolwork and get, college or whatever she decides. But, I would love to see the young folks, don't wait around. You'll figure it out. Don't worry about the money. Find a deal. You'll find the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Not so much wealth was a conversation growing up, but I was raised by a single mother. So having that stability in one's life was so important. I think that was kind of the picture my mom had always painted for me, was always being independent and never depending on anybody, regardless if it's a friend or a partner, to always have your own thing. So I really took that, and, I built my first house at 25. I, was out on my own at 18. And I think that's just like a great, that should be celebrated more, having that ability, because, and I'm sure as a father, you could probably speak to this, how worrisome it can be for the next generation, right? What's our world going to look like? Are we going to be more divided? Are we, what's our government going to look like? Are we going to be in a recession? What's our money going to be, and preparing for that is so crucial. And we are, we've been talking about KW Wealth in our market center, and really starting to pour into our agents about that. And because now's the time, right, with the market, and we don't know where it's going. And you just said everyone's coming after our commission. So I would love to get you to come in and speak for a little bit. That would be amazing. So speaking of your book, why should I read it?
Well, you just said something that inspired me. That's really off topic. You said you were raised by a single mother. So when I wrote this book, and I had both parents when I grew up, but my dad didn't, and friends and family didn't. And even being a state trooper, I've seen like women and men, mostly women, in bad situations, but they can't leave because they don't have the finances to, right? So they stay in tumultuous, domestic violent type environments because they financially can't leave. So the book that I wrote, Leaving Six Figures, really is not just about this cop that left. This could be that mother that doesn't have enough money to leave the situation that she's in, but stays there because of it, or that school teacher that just doesn't make enough to provide for her family because there's just not enough income. I talk about really just having a plan, and I talk about the part that I share with you is like the money, and if not, knowing how much money you need to survive. And then you also need a plan, like, and real estate doesn't have to be, I mean, it's a real estate lessons, but real estate might not be your passion driver, right? It could be tech, right? You see all these amazing people coming up with ideas. Even in our company, I was just talking to Craig Goodlife, who invented Cyberbackers. What an amazing company, where they're hiring, giving, in a poor country, the Philippines, giving thousands and thousands of jobs to those folks. But at the end of the day, for me, I have 4 children, and I still need to make sure that they're good. So you got to have a plan. You got to test your plan, right? So if your mom, let's say she wanted to leave her job, but she had to worry about you and making sure you were good. And I don't know if you have siblings as well, but she couldn't just leave her job. So she had to figure out, well, how much does it cost me to survive? How much do I need to save? What am I going to do when I leave this job that I don't like? What am I going to do? What makes me happy? Test it. Talk to people that you trust. Get them to tell you some feedback. People you trust, not just anybody. People who've done even what you want to do, or people that you think that live a life that you can trust their feedback and their advice. And then eventually the hardest part, and I think I shared, you asked me, my hardest thing was, that I had to do was actually leave that pension prematurely and resign. You got to act, and I probably could have left in 2007 financially, but I was too scared to act. So fear was a big problem. So I talk about that in the book too. So, everything that you're probably, there's millions that are not happy in their job. I just know it from research, and your listeners will probably know. And maybe they're realtors, they're not happy. Trust me, there are a lot of realtors that are not happy because I talk to them, and a lot of them like real estate business. They just don't like the sales business. That's why we're so cool, right? Keller Williams, we got maps, we got leadership positions, we got, so many different things, people that get paid to train and all that stuff. So you can make money and not be a realtor here, but people don't know it. So the book will really help people, not just in real estate, in all walks of life, that maybe are just stuck and don't know what to do. Because I was stuck for a lot of years, and at least I could take the journey with them through my story. And I've heard so many people that have been helped from it. So I feel that it has inspired people by the comments I've gotten. And I think if you're that person that's not happy, I think after reading it, you'll at least know that someone actually did it, that gave up something really big. It wasn't like I gave up a multi-million-dollar pension to go pursue happiness instead of that pension.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Was there any part of that book that you were really excited to share, or any part of that book that you were really, really thrilled to write?
There's a part, and I don't talk about it a lot, and she's probably mad at me, but my wife actually was responsible of writing like a little section on how we met. So that's in there, which I think is really cute. And then, my dad's journey. My dad was incarcerated early in life, and we weren't successful early on. My family, we lived in a little small apartment, me, my brother, and my mom, and actually my stepbrother for some time. So, but he actually was a self-learner. He dropped out in 8th grade, and telling that story for him of what he became and the man my dad since passed, but he created a really good company that my brother now is taken to the next level, a roofing company. So that's pretty cool, that story and what my dad accomplished. And I have a wonderful mom that just was an amazing mother and still is today. So those stories are really cool that I get to share.
Yeah, letting people in. I love that. Yeah. Just to wrap up on some last final questions, what is your big why?
This has been asked to me a lot in podcasts and even people that I coach and mentor. Everyone would think like it's my beautiful wife and my 4 kids and all that. But I think I said it earlier. I think I'm really passionate about creating leaders in my world. I mean, that's when Matt Teeter was one of my first team leaders, who was the first millionaire MAPS coach. When I heard that, I was like, yeah, man, go ahead. And other leaders, Maria and all kinds of other leaders have left me and done really well. Police officers that have left me that actually are OPs now, that became agents and OPs and real investors in Market Center. I mean, I've probably recruited 70, 80 police officers, state troopers into KWYP. And then another thing I'm proud of that I don't even talk a lot about, but I just figured it out. I'm like, next month I will hit 500,000 in profit share.
I was just about to ask you that. That's
so
amazing.
in 10 years, if you think about it, I made 500,000, and it's only going to compound. And it took me 17 years to get the 20 would have been for a pension. So I mean, there's just a lot to be proud of, and in my opinion, I think the journey just begun.
Yeah. So why KW, right? You have to be passionate about it. You have to believe in it in order to recruit to it, let alone recruit, good to it. So tell me why KW.
I'm not, people talk about the Kool-Aid and you're drinking it because it tastes good and all that. To be honest with you, if KW wasn't the right model, then it's not the right model. But God Family Business sold me. I really believed in that. I believed in, I love the new saying, but even the saying before, our mission, vision, belief, and statements. But, it's just a place where really, truly entrepreneurs do thrive, which is our new thing. And I've thrived. My friends in this company thrive. You see these amazing businesses. There's billionaires inside this freaking company. For God's sake. I mean, come on. I mean, there's just so much to offer. And I think we take advantage of it. I do. We all do. Like, there's so much, like career visioning. Like, I love it. I probably should be doing it more, right? And my people in my world should be doing it more. So I just think there's so much, and we take it for granted. We really do. I do. We all do. And now I've learned to slow down and not take it for granted, meaning lead gen is on my calendar for talent where I'm going to do CV, and wealth building's on my calendar. And, I have a 411, sitting here, all that stuff matters, because when I came to KWYP, that was the model, right? And I just followed the model, and my life has followed suit, right? I'm living in Boca Raton, Florida, and, living on the water. And, my wife and family has a house that they love, and we have amazing friends. And, I still have my house and my beach house down the shore, the Jersey Shore. And, we're living a good life. We own a lot of real estate, and I got great partners. And the journey, like I said, the journey just keeps continuing. And I see more leaders coming in my world that are doing amazing things. So for me, it's just keep pouring into others and see them succeed. And the fruits will come to me. And if they don't, awesome. I hope I help someone on their journey.
So as a learning leader, as myself, what would be your best piece of advice you could give me today?
This is the most simplistic advice, but it's the one that I will say, because I alluded to this earlier, and I told you that I made a lot of money, but I didn't keep it. I would tell everyone on this call, track 30 days of your spending and don't go on a diet because you're doing it. Live your life the way you usually live it for 30 days and track every coffee, every meal, every movie, whatever you're doing, and get that number and make sure that you're purposeful of your budget. And are you making enough money? Most people are not. They're spending 10 and they're making 7. And they wonder why credit card debt comes up. They wonder why, they can't invest. And then before you know it, they're in debt. So know that number and either cut back on your, like for me, once I knew my number, I wanted to make more because I don't want to change my lifestyle. So if you're like me, make more money, lead gen more, hire more talent, buy more properties, and that's what I did. I mean, my wife thinks I'm nuts, but I'll buy property if it makes sense at the drop of a hat. I bought 3 properties already this year, and I'm looking at another one hopefully before the end of the year. And I buy businesses. I own a bunch of market centers, and if they make sense, I'll look at the numbers and I'll get in there because I know I'm going to get down and dirty and recruit and grow it.
Yeah, you're awesome. I'm so glad I did this. Well, now I know that I have to absolutely read your book. So I'll definitely have to go grab a copy of that. And then I'm going to report back to you on some takeaways. I so appreciate your time today. And it was really great to kind of just learn a little bit more about you. And I think you are definitely influential for sure. I mean, I definitely feel I like, again, what I think is just an interview, right? Of just 2 people just getting to know one another. It turns into a coaching session. And I can't wait to watch this again to see what else I, keep as a nugget.
Well, what I will tell you is you're an awesome interviewer. You captivated my attention, and your questions challenged me to think deeper. So you're awesome. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing your journey as well.
Yeah, I am too. I keep hanging on. I keep coming back. And I think it just comes down to, right, this is where I really started my real estate career. I worked for a mom and pop, brokerage, and then didn't feel like I was getting the training that I needed in order to build that foundation for my career. And then I, joined Keller Williams, jumped into the coaching program and thrived. And then got offered this assistant team leader position, and then turned around and helped our OP and our ATL recruit that entire brokerage over. And never even knowing, right, that was not even on my map whatsoever. And I think you said it earlier, right? We are a company that has a bunch of different opportunities, right? Not just real estate. That was my goal, not knowing that I had a passion for real estate and helping people grow and talk about their business, and really trying to be mindful and impactful every single day. We all have bad days, of course, but I think that I resonate with you in getting that, it fills your cup up to talk to people and build them up. And I think that's also why I was so drawn to being on the mentorship chair for KWYP, was because there are so many young leaders in our market that don't even know what great leaders they could be within our organization, right? They may lead in their market, they may lead on their team, but there are so many other opportunities. I mean, MAPS coaching regionally, that I think, we need to, highlight that more. And it starts within KWYP. Those are truly the future leaders of our industry. And I love having these sessions, because talking with somebody who's been in the industry for a long time, who's had a journey of their own, and right, you still have a journey. Who knows where you're going to be a year from now, what other title you're going to have, what other acronym you're going to have, what other market setting you might be an OP of. And right, our leadership journeys are forever changing. We're always pivoting, we're always growing. So I thank you very much for your time today. I know how busy you are.
Awesome. Appreciate you. Thank you.